Hello everybody, welcome back to Gnarlo's Gaming Corner here. Mistakes will be made, and we are doing an unboxing. Whenever I played the OGRE computer game the other day, I talked about I was going to, my next board game thing would be an unboxing of all my versions of OGRE I have, and that's what we are going to do. As you see, I've straightened up and turned my living room here, what was the living room, into a games room, so I'm no longer sitting in my kitchen in front of a green screen. I'm actually sitting here on the table that I'm using to game and all, and enjoying having a dedicated space. It's nice to be able to have a dedicated space for playing my games and stuff like that. But we're going to get here with OGRE. This right here is my original edition. This is the third edition of it. First edition put out by Steve Jackson Games. Steve Jackson from Austin, not the Steve Jackson, the English Steve Jackson, was the creator of OGRE, and he did back when he was working at, I think, Metagaming was the name of the company. This was the first of their micro games that at the time came in Ziploc bags with a sheet of counters and a little rules pamphlet inside. The first two versions of OGRE were published under Metagaming. When he left Metagaming and formed his own company, Steve Jackson Games, this third edition here was the first one that came out with the Steve Jackson logo on it. And the first one that came out, I believe, in the plastic pocket box edition, as you see. This is my original pocket box. I got this back in 1980, I want to say 1982 or 1983. I know it was sometime right after I completed high school and right when I went to college. Got it at when I was at the University of Georgia. They had a game shop there. It was games and art materials and dollhouse supplies, miniature dollhouse supplies, called the Hobby Horse, and it was a wonderful place. I spent so many hours in there just gazing at the stuff. But this was OGRE. I said the first version. I have OGRE, I have GEV, and I have original Shockwave, and that's why I know that the date is somewhere right around there, because I got OGRE and GEV at the same time at the Hobby Horse, but Shockwave had not come out yet. Shockwave didn't come out to the next year, and that was 1984. As you see, it's got quite a bit of wear and tear on it. It has really, but it has withstood well. It has stood up to all the abuse and everything I've got quite well. I've got the original GEV box as well, but it is still packed away in a box upstairs. A lot of my older games like this, getting all my newer ones on the shelves, but a lot of the older games like this, I have not yet dug out of all the boxes upstairs, so I'm still bringing them down, and I haven't found the GEV box yet, which is a shame, because the GEV box is what I've stored all the counters in. The OGRE box here has got all the rule books and the maps in it, so I won't be able to show you the counters themselves, but I'll be able to show you the rest of it. So we'll go ahead and pop it open here. There we are. It is still rather stiff after all this time. Spend a lot of time closed up there. Now we'll go ahead. This is the original OGRE rule book with the copyright of 1977, which is when Steve Jackson created the game for Metagaming. There we go. See, OGRE, Tactical Ground Combat in the 21st Century. Your table of contents there. It is a 30-page rule book or something like that. Something of the sort. And wonderful illustrations throughout by come on, what's his name? Chung. I'm trying to remember. Let's see, it should be on the back of the box. Winchell Chung. He was the guy that created the OGRE, created the artwork for the OGRE, and gave it its iconic look that everybody in the world recognizes, that silhouette. Every little pocket gamer in the world recognizes that silhouette of the OGRE. He's the one that came up with that, and for the design of the GEVs and all that too. Very much a 1970s style war game. Got a combat results table, which are There you go. CRT table, combat results. We roll a die against the combat odds. Very, very old school. You see very few of those kind of things in modern war games. They use a uh, bunch of other things, dice, drawing cards, those sort of things. But I still like the old CRTs. I don't think there's anything wrong with it just because they're old. Yeah, they can be a little clunky and all that, but I'm an Ameritrash gamer. I don't mind clunky. Here's the rulebook for GEV. As you see, it was created the next year in 1978, but of course both of these were already available. Mobile howitzer. Both of these were already available whenever I got them. Both the GEV and OGRE. GEV, its big standpoint was not only did it introduce the ground effects, the hovercraft and hover tanks, but it brought in terrain. As you're going to see in just a moment, the original OGRE map up here is nothing more except for a big empty field with some rubble in it and some nuke craters. But this introduced water, rail lines, streams, towns, forests, swamps, road effects, all these wonderful terrain effects. You know, really upgraded OGRE to more of a real war game type. Then the next one, the Shockwave here, was never actually released in a pocket box. It was the one that I got. It actually came in a Ziploc bag, and this is the insert that came with it. Like I said, when they came in the Ziploc bags, they had the rule books and the insert stuck in there with them. You see the back: lasers, nukes, and ogres. He gave a 224 more counters, another map, and some scenarios. It talked about, it introduced cruise missiles, it introduced the laser towers, new GEVs, a super heavy tank. Nice cover with the OGRE with the nuclear blast going off in the background. Shockwave. All right. And then finally are the maps. Let me see if I can dump them out. I'm going to turn it off here for just a second and we'll get the rest of the maps. They fit kind of tight down in there, the larger ones. And here are the three maps that came with it. Right here is the original OGRE map. This is the one that came with the OGRE game. As I said, it was only, just barren, blasted terrain. This is like a primary battlefield here. You've got these little rills, which only infantry and ogres can climb. The tanks and all had to go around them. Nobody could go through these. These are the little craters, the little nuke craters scattered all about the map. And in your primary scenario, y'all saw us play that. This is the exact same map that we played in the tutorial of, or the first scenario that we played in the OGRE computer game that I uploaded earlier. If you remember, the OGRE came in on this side of the map, and everybody else, the pan-European forces, were up here with their command post way up yonder. This is the same map that y'all saw there. So that is the original OGRE map. Quite a nice piece. It's still a classic to play on and all. GEV came out, and as I said, GEV introduced terrain, so you have something that looks much more like a modern day war game map. You've got your forest, your clear terrain, your swamps, towns and roads, train lines and all, much more the same. And then when GEV came out, Shockwave came out, it introduced this map, which could link up with the GEV map there and make one big old mega map. In fact, it could fit anywhere. You can put this side of it over here, you could put it over there, put that up top, put it down here, it would fit on any of the sides. My favorite was always to put it here and have a nice big old lake here, the way the roads and the trains, a couple of towns, a big city and a few towns scattered about that you could fight over and all. So that is the original pocket box versions there of OGRE, GEV, and Shockwave. Next up, I'm going to show you what my next purchase was as I moved on up the OGRE line. So after I'd been playing OGRE here for 5 or 6 years and putting a lot of wear and tear on the box and gotten a little tired of the counters. You saw the map. The counters, I don't have them because, like I said, they're packed away upstairs, but they're about 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, about the size of one of my fingernails here, and moving around on that little map. And they could get really, if you If you big old stubby fingers like mine, if you move too much or you could brush them aside or someone sneezed, the counters would just go flying all over the place because they were just real thin card. They were probably about as thick as like a file card or something. So in 1987, the Ogre Deluxe Edition came out, and this is a proper boxed board game here, as you see. Classic game of battle against a merciless robot foe. Let me pick it up here and flip it over. See the back of it? Programmed to destroy. The command post is well guarded. Tanks, hovercrafts, missile cannon, and infantry and battle suits, all with one job. There's a far off distant ogre on the horizon there, firing away. And as you see there, you can see Ogre is now available as a computer game for the Apple II, the Macintosh, the Atari ST, the Commodore 64, and IBM. That shows you how old it is. How many of those things are still around? Not very many. And IBM PCs are certainly not called IBMs anymore. We'll go ahead and pop off the top of the box here. There you go. The one thing that I lose quite a few of in here, these little counters. These are the little counters that you use on the map. You'll see here in just a second. And they're tiny little circle things, and they are a pain in the ass to keep track of. So let's go ahead and pull the map out. See, they get all over the place. There's a green one right there. And here is the mounted map board that came with the Ogre Deluxe Edition here. Got all the counters, everything else poured out onto the table here. As you see, a large mix. It's pretty much the same mix that you have in the original Ogre game over there. It's just that they are actual stand-up counters with the little plastic bases instead of the flat ones. I've got a few stuck in here, like the Ogre Mark V here, which is standing. There's an example of the infantry. That's a 3-strength infantry and a GEV. And here's the command post that you're going after. So you've got those and moving along. The little markers that I said, these little round markers that you see, you use those across the top of the map, but you theoretically didn't have to refer back to the rule book. Everything should be printed on the map. You see all the various things. On the original Ogre game, the counters had all the values printed on them, of course, like a standard war game. These don't have any values printed on them, so the values had to be printed on the map as well as the CRT table and the Ogre over here. The problem being this has the misprint where the defense ratings for like the Ogre main and secondary batteries are too small. They were misprinted. They should have been one higher, so the Ogres in this version of the game were a lot weaker if you didn't know about the misprint there. In the rule book that came with it, they're actually printed correctly. So if you were using the rule book and using the things here where that you could photocopy to keep track of your ogres that way, you'd have the correct strengths and all. But if you were just using the ones on the board, you didn't. And these little round things, they're color coded so that if you had multiple ogres going on at a time, for instance, there's the yellow ogre would use the little yellow markers. The green ogre here, one that's printed in green, would use the green markers. So you could have the little pieces color-coded on there and keep track of multiple ogres and the damage they had taken at the same time. Like I said, we almost always, I don't know if we ever use that. We almost always just use the pencil and the pad of paper to keep track of everything. So there's the larger ogre board. I will lay the pocket box map up here to show you the difference. There you go. As you see, it is literally about 2.5 times as big as the pocket box version there. Now, finally, I got this one. This one was 1987 is when this came out. Oh, and I've still got the catalog that came with it. I loved keeping these little catalogs that came. As you see, spring 1987. Love keeping these little catalogs and looking back through them and seeing just the incredible price of stuff, you know? Cardboard Hero miniatures, all of them like $3.50. Can you imagine the price of those kind of things now? Look at the computer games. Oh, computer games were just as expensive then as they are now. Look at there, the Auto Duel computer game for Commodore 64, $52. And the Ogre computer game for the C64, $42. Those haven't changed much. Since 1987. So we're talking about 20, 30 years. Yeah, it lends a little bit of weight to the game publishers' complaints when they talk about, people, whoa, why do you sell all this DLC? Why do you have all this microtransaction? Stuff that I hate, of course, but it's stuff that I do understand their point to a degree. It's just the egregious nature, the ridiculous nature that they've done it. They've become greedy rather than trying to make their money and all. They're just trying to milk everybody. Because yes, as you see here, the Ogre computer game is $42. That's in 1987 dollars. The Ogre computer game that I got on Steam was what, 15 or 20 or something like that? I can't remember, but yeah, it was around $10, $15, and that's in 2018 dollars. So yeah, when they talk about, your average computer game, or your average AAA computer game, or your average AAA console game, price hasn't gone up. They're still about 60, 50, or $60. Well, yeah, that's exactly what they are, and that shows that they're the value of dollars over inflation and all, they have actually gone down in price. They're actually cheaper. That $60 is actually cheaper than it was back in the 1980s. So I don't mind the expansions and stuff and them putting out DLC for it. It's the ridiculous money grabbing, just milk them for every penny we can get out of them bullshit that they do, which is the bad part. EA, Activision, Ubisoft, we're looking at y'all. All right. So next, I'm going to show you the last purchases here in my Ogre line, and I will get those out in just a moment. So once more, right here is the original Ogre game that I got, the pocket box. Swirling up this way, this is the Ogre Designers Edition. Let me grab the pocket box here and throw it out there for reference. Monster of a game box here. This is the Designer's Edition. This is the one that Steve Jackson in 2012 had a Kickstarter for. And at the time, this was actually the most successful game Kickstarter that had ever been. It has been surpassed several times, of course. Steve Jackson wanted to do basically a little labor of love. He wanted to bring Ogre back out, one more publishing of Ogre. It had gone through a number of revisions and all, 4th edition, 5th edition. There'd been a miniatures game, but the interest in it had kind of died off a bit. It wasn't really being sold that much. So he wanted to do basically one last version of it and started a Kickstarter. He asked for, I think, $20,000 is what he was wanting to publish one last version of Ogre, and he got almost $1 million, like over $900,000, and that convinced him just how much interest there was out there for the Ogre game. So you see, this box here is about 25, a little over 25 pounds of gaming goodness here. I'm going to move this. I did not participate in the Kickstarter for this. I actually got this version of it not second hand, but it is a brand new game, but through the retail channels. They printed extra copies, not just enough to fill all the Kickstarter pledges, but extra copies in order to have some to sell at retail, and that's when I got this one. Let me go ahead and pop the top of it off here. And it's going to take 2 hands, so we will see you again in just a moment. We have taken the top off, and as you see here is inside the box. The first thing you see is this wonderful poster. And you can actually get these from Warehouse 23 at Steve Jackson Games. They do sell these separately. Mark V, a cutaway view of Mark V, basically like a blueprint poster of it, showing the memory unit and all the various pieces. Up here's a sensor array, and deep down in here's a secondary sensor array, and there's the fusion engine down there and the logic circuits. There's the fusion power plant and all the various drive units, and you see the interior, the missiles and all. Very nice poster, and I am going to get this mounted, get this framed, and put it in my wall in here in the game room. Then next, this was the one that came on the back of the box, this sheet right here, which was basically it's a repeat of the cover, repeat of the back cover. And you say, oh, well, why do you have that? Well, because you flip it over, and it gives some very good advice. It's the read me first. This set includes more than 1,000 counters. Don't start by punching them all out. That way lies madness. Keep reading. And as you see, it gives instructions about what counters you do need to start with. It gives you links to places at Steve Jackson Games, pages at Stevie Jackson Games, where you can go, and gave you instructions on assembling the counters more than what you have here, because there are 3D encounters in here too, and we will get to those now. There you go. This is what Steve Jackson calls the OGRE Garage. You've got this, it's just, you can see where all the money went. This is truly a labor of love here that he created. This wonderful hard plastic trays here to fit all the 3D counters in. You've got all these different kind of ogres. These are the ogres, the buildings, the command post, all them. As you can see, oh, let's take a look here. We'll grab, here's a OGRE Mark III. You see a 3D counter of an OGRE Mark III here. Absolutely beautiful. Nice piece whenever that's on the board playing with it. You've got the command post. Y'all remember from the thing, this is the pan-European command post that sits on the board and you go after. And then, for instance, if you're playing Combine Forces, those are the Combine command posts. Oh, what else do we have? We have administration buildings. We've got an OGRE Mark V with the Combine emblem on the top of it. It's an hourglass. What's this one's name? This is what, Nib? The Combine emblem that uses an hourglass, which originally was a stylized North and South America, but it got turned into an hourglass. The Pan-Europeans, which are the blue ones here. Let's see, there it is. You see the little like Grecian helmet there. That is the emblem of the Pan-European forces, and that's the tank named Paul. Rather fond of that tank. Okay, we have got one Mark IV right there, and there is even up here in this corner, there is a Mark VI Ogre. Monstrous. Look at those 3 main guns on the front, the 6 secondaries, all the missiles. There are even, for the people that like playing it old school, there's a Mark II Ogre, the Derpy, DRPY, the Derpy Mark II. There are no Mark Is in here, but if there was going to be Mark I, they're Mark I flat counters. If you're going to use a Mark I, it would be about the size of this mobile command post here. So you could use these mobile command posts if you wanted for Mark Is. What else is in the box? We've got strong points. We've got the Pan-European fencers. This is a special Pan-European Ogre, which was more maneuverable and more heavy on the missiles. Laser towers. There's your laser towers that sit on the board and command wide areas, helping to shoot down cruise missiles and stuff. There is one reactor in this box, as you see. So nice stuff. We're going to move these trays here now, show you what's underneath them. There's like 70 something, 75 counters or so of the 3D counters here. So let's move all these out of the way. Let me set them to the side. And right underneath it is the Ogre map. You'll recognize the classic Ogre map here. Folding map comes in 2 parts. It is truly a monstrous map. We will show you more of that in just a bit. Underneath that are the mounted maps of Ogre, GEV and Shockwave. We've got those, and they are the same thing. Big fold-out mounted maps here. 4-piece, so you get these just huge maps. I'm going to take those out, and we'll show you what's up underneath these now. And down underneath the 4 trays where the maps fit, this is where all your flat counters are. So look at this beautiful inserts and all. Just like the OGRE Garage, it is a true labor of love here. You can tell where he really spent the money on making a ultimate version of OGRE. Like up here, you have flat Mark IIs, and then the flat Mark I's up here as well. You see, they're just, basically they were just regular tanks that happened to have a computer brain built into them. That's all that the Mark I Ogres were. They were more of an experimental. You've got all these terrain counters, you know, burning cities, forests, roads, railroad tracks, bridges over water, all these things you can construct. Just lay them on the regular maps and construct all sorts of scenarios and stuff. Lots of unit counters. Here you have infantry. Look at all these various infantry units and all going back. Then you have tanks and trucks, and over here you've got more infantry and marines, as you see, and light hovercraft and all. You've got roads that are roads and bridges, like the roads that go over the stream, and then flip it over to show the destroyed sides. You've got missile crawlers, you've got cruise missiles, more terrain, road cuts, all sorts of stuff. Big spot right here for further terrain. I don't currently have these pieces, but they are on the way. I've got several terrain sheets. There were about, how many? There was about 36 or 38 sheets of counters included with the main game here that have all been punched out. And then there were an additional 7 or 8 counter sheets you could buy separately from companies that pledged. And that's what I've got. And those are where you get the large terrain sheets. And those are on their way to me. So we'll have that section filled in shortly. In addition, there is another Kickstarter going on right now for battlefields, which replaces these hardboard mounted maps here with neoprene. The neoprene, basically mouse pad material rollout maps, and includes 4 or 5 new maps that aren't included here in this set. And in addition, I think it's currently got, I can't remember if they said 12 or 20 more. Can't remember if they said, I'm wanting to say 12, but it could have been 20. We'll be conservative and say 12 more sheets of counters for terrain and vehicles and that kind of stuff. Just absolutely beautiful. The other part that I've been doing, the latest part I've been getting into, is the miniatures. And they make miniatures. Not only is there the board game version, there's also the miniatures version. And he's actually got miniatures rules for it. But I'm not really interested in the miniatures rules that much. But these are wonderful things to use for, so you see all the different miniatures you have to cut out and glue together and paint. And a bunch there. There's like 40 in this box, 85 in this box. There was the miniature sets too, which give you another like 40 miniatures here. One of which we have actually popped out. Let me see which one it is. Y'all probably saw it briefly. Yep, there it is. Here we go. There's an Ogre Mark III that I've actually cut off the sprues and glued together. It just needs painting now. As you see, absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to set it down. I'm going to lay out the classic Ogre map here, and I'm going to set these down on it, and I'll be back in just a moment to show y'all that. Okay, and here we are. Here's the original pocket box I've got set down here. Here's the original pocket box map I've got set here. And there you can see, of course, the cover of the box. And there's the classic map laid out with some counters on it. So for you to take a look at. Let's zoom down a little closer to the map here. We have got a mercenary. I think that's the Rose, the mercenary Ogre Mark III sitting there. There's a laser tower back here in the background. You see how they set up. That is a Combine, North American Combine command post. Over here is a administration building. We got a couple of infantry markers on the map. Right here is a very interesting unit. I've got this particular group ordered, and they should be on the way. This is from the sheet Uncommon Ogres, but I've actually ordered Barbarians at the Gate, which gives you the Vatican Guard forces, as you see, and their purple and gold livery here with the Pope's emblem, the seal of the Pope on the side of the con tower there. This is the Ogre. This is a Mark VI named the Pious. You can see just the difference between the Mark 6 and the Mark 3 there, just in the number of guns and size and everything else. And then let's move the Mark 3 counter back, and we'll put the Mark 3 miniature right next to it. And you can see they did a remarkable good job with the counters there, capturing the essence of what these ogres look like. The 3D counter does a really good job of giving you an image. This will be even more so whenever I get it all base coated and then painted up and all. So yeah, there you go. That is my ogre collection, as it were. Told you I would do this. This would be my next unboxing as soon as I got around to doing another one. So there you go. I hope y'all have enjoyed it. I hope it's been pretty interesting for you. And you've had a fun time coming along. Thanks for watching it, and we hope to see you out on the battleground of 2085 sometime soon. Ogre on!